One. Hey everybody, it's D3 or D3PO or David, depending on how you want to call me. Just don't call me late for dinner. So, anyway, in my last video that I made, I showed how to make a star brush in the free image manipulation program called GIMP. Well, and I showed you how to do it, and like I said in that video, GIMP it's a good program and it offers a lot of the stuff that Photoshop does. However, Photoshop can sometimes do the same things a little easier. So I'm actually in Photoshop right now. This is the main screen, or the first screen that comes up when you get into Photoshop. And actually, let me go ahead and I'll delete that. So this is the this is the list of different items that I've actually worked on. So you see the Christmas card templates, a couple of them. One of them was probably further along in the design work than the other. It's a process called versioning. These are actually assets that I used in the Christmas card. And then this one is just a photo or image that I'm working on right now. But this image actually uses a brush much like the one that we're going to be working on today. This time though, we're going to do this in Photoshop. So to start off with making this brush in Photoshop, we want to go to either File and then down to New, or we can just go and click on Create New. And one thing I should say is that this version of Photoshop, this is the Photoshop Creative Cloud 2018 is its full name. This is a paid program. It is a subscription-based program. I personally have the photography subscription plan, which is I believe it's $19.95 per month or $119 per year. When I had the money, I just went ahead and got the year-long subscription, which I would recommend anyway. So, but anyway, getting back on point. So, to start this type of image, we'll want to use a square image to work with, and we want a white background. So I'm going to make mine 7x7, which is already what this template is set to. I'm going to leave the resolution at 300 pixels. Color mode and bits, those we don't need to change for this type of image, or for this type of item that we're doing. So from here, just click Create, and this takes us into our main image. You'll see that I was kind of working on a brush here. I'm going to switch to a regular brush. Okay, I'm going to go, once again, I'm going to go to the hard round brush. Now, this brush you can see is really big. So I'm going to bring down the size. And to do that, I can go here, and we'll bring it down to a little bit larger than that. A little larger. Yeah, that's pretty good. And so just like in the last video, when creating this type of a brush, it helps. I mean, the main goal of creating a brush like this, like a star brush, is that you want to create a brush that doesn't generate recognizable patterns when you're using it. You want it to look scattered, and because nature, when you look at it immediately, or when you look directly at it, it's random. There's a bunch of randomness everywhere, which is ironic because nature is probably the most orderly thing that we have, and honestly. So we want it to look scattered. So again, we don't want to put the create our brush in the middle. We want to leave our middle blank, unless you really want to do that, of course. But in my opinion, it just kind of helps to sell the randomness if we put these circles in one corner or another. So I'm going to put one here. Oh, okay, I see what went wrong. The reason why I got gray is because I forgot to set my opacity to 100%. So let me Control Z to get rid of that. And I'm going to go up here and change my opacity to 100% because I want this to look black right now. And one thing I might also do, go in here, I might take away a little bit of the hardness. Now in GIMP the way that we did that in GIMP to take away the hard edge of the stars is we put a Gaussian blur on it. So taking care doing the hardness setting right now, that actually will kind of take care of that for us. So I'm going to put one dot right there. Again, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to drop the size down to roughly about that. That looks pretty good. Put one right there. Now from here, this is where it gets simple, a lot more simpler than what it does in GIMP. Do select, go to all, and then to turn this into a brush, we go to edit, and then we go down to define brush preset. So let's call this D3PO star brush 1. Okay, and click OK. And then if we were to open up a new document, and this time once again I'm going to go to here. We're going to set the background to black, so that way I automatically get a black string. I click go create, and then from here, just like GIMP has arrows right by the colors, so does Photoshop. So I'm going to, okay, evidently it's really thinking hard. Or let me check one thing. Nope. Okay, so from here I'm going to switch it, and then I'm going to go to brush settings. is what I want to go to. So this right here is a preview of what the brush will look like right now. So the two main items that we want to do at this point to help randomize that brush and make it look more natural is we want to click on shape dynamics. We want to click there, and we also want to click there. So we want to set the size jitter. I'm going to set mine all the way up. I usually like to have a lot of jitter in that. And we also want to set the angle jitter really high. And that will, and you can see in the preview, it's beginning to look like more like a natural star field. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to turn on scattering. And for scattering, I'm going to set that all the way up. And I'm also going to click here where it says both axes. Clicking on both axes means that the brush will get scattered on both the X and Y axes, or the center of the brush will get scattered more. And then because the way that it's calculated is the computer first determines where the brush, it looks at where your sorry, let me bring that down. It looks at where the brush, where your cursor is, which my cursor is actually in the middle of these two dots. I'll narrow that down. So my cursor is in the middle of these two dots. But the scattering, and what the computer does is it first randomizes the scattering, so it pushes that center off. And then from there, it does the angle jitter and the size jitter. So basically what will happen is if I hit OK. That's why. My mistake. The blend mode for this brush was set to multiply, so it was not showing. So, sorry. So I'm setting it to normal, so that way we can see the brush. And just as you pull it across, Lightroom scatters it. And you can see you get kind of a size jitter. One thing I did discover is in GIMP where, okay, so I'm going to clear this here. Okay. All right. So select all, delete, and I'm actually going to fill that in with the background color. Select, deselect. Okay, so for this brush, and you can see that very quickly you come up with and you can get a really dense star field. Now if it's a case where it's just getting too crazy with the placement of the star field, you can actually adjust this scattering. Because sometimes, you know, we think that, or one of the things that we sometimes think about with stars, so we think about the patterns created by the patterns created in the sky by the stars, but also there is something to be said about the patterns created in the sky where there is nothing. So sometimes with the if you set the scatter too high, you'll actually, if you're trying to create more of a if you're trying to add more stars into one particular spot of the sky, and you're clicking here, let me show you, and you're clicking like this, the scatter, if you have the scatter high enough, it could actually wind up all the way over here. So let me show you. So here's my my cursor right in the middle. And you can see it is putting in more or less in the middle, but if I try and go over here now, you know, it might actually put some stars right where I want and don't want them. And it's pretty straightforward if that happens to you, and if that happens, you can pretty easily remove stars with the eraser. One thing I do recommend is anytime that you're using this brush, to paint onto a separate layer from where you're actually painting, because that way you have some control, and it's non-destructive. And I recommend doing that both in Photoshop and in GIMP, because it's easier to back out the effect if you work in layers. But anyway, so this is how you create the star field brush in Photoshop CC 2018. Pretty sure I don't have Photoshop Elements, but I'm pretty sure that the process is pretty similar. So anyway, if you guys like this video, click the like button. If you have any ideas for me, of anything that you would like to see me try and do, go ahead and leave a comment below. And in the meantime, I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.